Hey Spuddies, Potato Big Whiskey here, and welcome to Plan B Terraform. I have not been this excited for a Factorio-esque city builder terraforming game ever, really. And Plan B Terraform is... it's a chef's kiss, it's amazing, it's beautiful. I don't even have to properly describe it. I need to double check that my sound is like a lot. Okay, we got the sound set up right. Can you tell that I'm a professional, by the way? So we're going to go ahead and play Plan B Terraform. I have already played just a little bit. We shall start ourselves a new planet. I'm just going to give it a random name because I'm not going to be keeping this planet. This is only a demo. It's available on Steam. You can try out the demo until the 13th of February. The game launches on the 15th of February. And oh my god. This game just has that crunchy, toy-like quality that really, really good games have. It's like, I don't even know how to describe the words that I want to use, but there's just something, like the aesthetic just works, the UI is masterful, the planetary, the game design, the art, everything just hits right. Now we're doing like a little tutorial thing here where they want me to like go around and... you might be familiar with this type of game. You have like resource piles of a variety of different resources and you extract those resources. Like for example, let's do that exact thing right now. We'll build like a little ring of extractors, and then in the center of that ring of extractors, we will put a depot. These extractors will spin and they pick up this iron. Each tile has its own amount of iron in it, right? And they will deplete over time. Then you assign the depot to a particular resource. And when one of these things produces iron, the little drone here will go and pick up that iron, and he'll be busy now. And then you take this iron and you attach it to a factory, and then the iron will get fed into the factory. The factory is automatically producing steel bars, and then the steel bars have to get fed into its own depot, like so. And then we assign the depot to the steel bar resource, and then you can feed the steel bars into an assembly plant. So now we are using the iron that we're using, like the iron that we are producing with our extractors is being fed into a factory to be turned into steel. The steel is being fed into a assembly plant to be producing more extractors. So the first stage of automating the expansion of our operations here on Blars, a decidedly off-brand Mars, has begun. Let's start up a second production line. We're going to need a few of these production lines to kind of handle all of the resources that we're going to be bringing in. But we should slowly start to get more extractors. I can probably do a couple of assemblers. Now, one of the unique things about the setup we're going to have to do is actually do a triple process here, because one of these processes, these things are relatively easy to produce, right? Out of just steel bars, but these things, they actually have to be processed twice. Once into steel bars, and then when the steel bars are produced, they will go through to the steel bar depot, and then you have to get them turned into, I believe, mechanical parts. Now, the first thing that we have to do, of course, is to actually just build 10 extractors and place them on the ground for our mission. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all this stuff that I've made and focus on producing just extractors right now so that we can reach our mission. So hopefully you can start to see, right? Like, oh, it takes, they produce, one of these per month. These produce 15, per year. And then this uses up to 30, 30, this uses up to 90 per year. So this can be fed by 6 extractors, basically. This factory can be. And one of these factories can feed almost an entire assembly plant, almost. Let's add another extractor to our operation, and that does complete our mission, and we have now hit, oh, sorry, I clicked that off by accident. Use the factory to transform steel into mechanical parts. We have to build 5 factories and place them on the ground. That is our next mission. And this is the sort of process of the game. You'll be building an ever-expanding factory on Blars, as I like to call it. It's Blars. But we probably don't need this many extractor producers, so I'm going to go ahead and fast forward slightly until this extractor is done, and then I'm going to go ahead and delete this and replace it with one of these so we can get started on more advanced production. So we'll start producing mechanical parts. So now we're going to a 2-step process, whereas before it was iron into steel into mechanical parts. In fact, I would like this to become depots because I'm running low on depots. I have a couple of extractors here. So once you have a couple, you can get a production chain going. And I would like to, with the mechanical parts, I would like to start producing more factories and more assembly plants. So there's a little bit of like pushing around your thingies, and we can fast forward time, by the way. There's like a little bit of you know, chopping and changing your production queue and all that sort of stuff. But this is, I don't know, there's something so crunchy about this. And you zoom out and you can see like your little production chains. And I can already kind of see like you have to feed cities and you have to like map, you know, these giant production chains. Maybe there's a particular resource that's produced in like the North Pole. This is where I get the water and I drive the water down to the cities. And oh, I can taste the possibilities that are available in this game. Let's start another production chain. Boom. Some people, you know, my instinct is to just build on the edges, but I figured, you know what? It's all about just getting that throughput. And what I really want are these mechanical parts to get going. Ah, right. I forgot to set this depot to the correct resource, so that's why it's not working. Now, if I set it to mechanical parts, all those mechanical parts will get pulled off, and it will, in fact, get fed in here, and we will start making these beautiful, beautiful assemblers. And so we shall continue to produce some assemblers. Now, let me see. I've got a couple of depots, so depot and depot. I need 2 assemblers in this chain so that I can produce the mechanical parts necessary. Something popped up there. Ah, right. Okay, so we reached level 3. Now they want me to reach a population of 10 in my biggest city. So we'll get to work on that in just a moment. Now we can produce concrete, we can produce roads, road stops, trucks, and supply centers. So while depots are quite good at transporting resources over very short ranges, roads over here are what you use to transport resources over long distances. We'll get to work on that first. Let's go ahead and continue to expand our factory. Now, we have enough assemblers and factories, or enough factories as far as I can tell. So I'm going to just wait until this finishes with this final mechanical part, and then I'm going to change this to be producing the assembly plant. And then once I have one more assembly plant, I will essentially be producing all these things. I'll just need to build one more small production line. In fact, I can get started on that production line right now. Let me finish the depot here. And then I will switch back to extractors. I'll probably want 2 extractor producers because that's one of the ones you kind of use the most of. But I'm just waiting until this assembly plant completes. I place the assembly plant. I make sure I assign this to steel bars and this to mechanical parts and then this to, I believe, factories. Yes, so now I'm producing both assembly plants and factories and extractors, which means we can go ahead and get started on the next phase of our development. I'll place a little depot here and eventually a extractor will go there. The assembler will do this and then, sorry, the factory will go there and then the assembly plant will go there. And now, oh, that was a misclick. We do a little misclicking, but now I would like to produce depots. So now that I'm producing depots, we have a full production chain going. We are producing every single basic piece of infrastructure. We just have to like let time fast forward a little bit as we work on that. Let's also make sure that this actually stores iron because it was not transmitting it. And we'll just go to get the production line going a little bit better. You are supposed to store steel, which you were not doing. And voila, we are producing. However, I think what we will continue to do is to expand our factory because I would like a second set of extractors. You could see, like, if you look at the ratio of things that I use, extractors are one of the most commonly used things. Now, we can produce these depots pretty quickly, like we won't run out of depots, but extractors are going to be a thing that I run up against, like, issues with supply just constantly. So I like to get a second line of extractors going, boom, and then we just need an assembly plant at the end of that production line. You go ahead and produce steel bars, and then I want you to store steel bars, and then I want you to store iron to hold the raw resources. And so now we have 2 production lines making these beautiful little extractors, and so we will get these extractors at a reasonable pace. So now that we have these, we kind of have to consider we've got the very basics of a self-replicating expanding factory going, and we just kind of have to figure out what our bottlenecks are. We're going to need to produce concrete, we need to produce road stops, and we also need to produce supply centers. So how do I produce concrete? Well, you produce concrete from the sulfurous deposits over here. So I suppose let's go ahead and get started on that. I'll pop these 2 things in here. I will put a little factory. We want to assign this to sulfur. We will assign this factory to concrete. So now we already have the construction line of this. And don't forget, like, things get more complicated. Eventually, we're going to have to ship like iron and sulfur to a central depot to like work on more advanced technologies and more advanced resources. But now that we're producing concrete, it would be good if we started producing roads. Well, let's get started with the supply center, I think. So you're storing sulfur, then I need a place to put the concrete. So I will do concrete right there. And then with the concrete, I need to do an assembly plant. And with the assembly plant, I need to be making supply centers. Sure, let's do supply centers. That seems reasonable. Boom, boom. So that is the first of my production chains for concrete. I'm just going to speed time up while I wait for more extractors to come online. You can see why I said extractors are going to be my biggest bottleneck. In fact, extractors are such a big bottleneck. If I'm speed running this bad boy, I'm going to go ahead and get another production line dedicated to the construction of extractors. Let's go ahead and get a factory and then a assembly plant with a couple of depots in between them to keep that production line going. I want iron and I want steel bars. You're making extractors. Perfect. So now that I have 3 construction lines working on steel, that means I should be producing a little, probably under 20 to 30, yeah, probably like 20-ish extractors per year, which should be more than enough. Should be more than enough for me to keep up pace now with my construction needs. Let's go ahead and build another sulfurous construction line. We're going to need both sulfur here, as well as potentially the concrete being produced. And then I want that to flow from the factory that will produce the concrete. Yes, thank you so much. And then the concrete will flow into the assembly plant, and the assembly plant will produce the roads. Now, one thing that I actually am missing is the construction of trucks. Trucks are one of the things that I need to produce. If you can see here, trucks take mechanical parts. So they'll be a little bit more complicated of a production line. Now, something we can do as we get a little bit more advanced in the game's techniques, we can actually start to merge construction lines. So say I have this right here and I want to do, so say I place these 2 in this configuration, and then a space away, I place 2 more thingies. Now, we can also theoretically, if we wanted to merge into a single line, let me build it so I can explain it first. Yes, sorry, I have messed this up. So hold on. So if we space these out in a very, very particular configuration where we put 2 factories are feeding into a single pad, and then a single pad is feeding 2 more factories, and they are feeding a single pad, we can kind of like combine the throughputs. So now this isn't exactly strictly necessary, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Does this configuration, is it starting to make sense, right? Because what I want to produce here are mechanical parts, and then I want those mechanical parts to transport across here. I don't know how to adequately explain why this is better. It would honestly be better if I shifted it down 1, which I'm now going to do because I noticed that it would be better if I shifted it down 1. But is what I'm doing here, is that making sense? I think it makes sense to me. I don't know how to explain it. Basically, we have each of these pads surrounded by extractors, and then the resources that are placed on these, I'm basically just doing this just with 2 extraction pads instead of 1. You know, like it's a slightly more complicated production chain. But this is only really if you need like real throughput. So I'll put 2 factories. I don't know, it feels slightly more efficient to do things this way. And then these 2 factories will produce steel bars that will get placed here. Then this factory here, I don't know if you can handle the throughput from a single one, but hopefully you can. You will then produce me mechanical parts. The mechanical parts will get placed onto this depot, and then the mechanical parts will get assembled in the assembly plant into trucks. And that will be the play. So this is like, this makes sense to my brain, but I don't know how to explain it to people. I think we might actually need to get two factories here that are producing mechanical parts to keep up with the throughput of this. And then this will just mean that I'm always producing trucks at maximum capacity. Now, what are trucks used for? Trucks are primarily used for the truck-based transportation system. But in order for me to do that, I'm going to need to build another road stop. So I need to get myself a few more extractors. Oh yeah, I need to increase the throughput here. Okay, so I can't quite handle all of this. Can I get a second assembly plant working on roads here so that we could just keep the road construction going? Roads are pretty fundamental. I'll probably set up a second production chain for just roads. That's how many of them you need and how useful they are. Go ahead and assemble the concrete or process the concrete. You don't have to build your production chains in like straight lines, by the way. You actually totally can build like wiggly, higgledy, piggledy back and forth lines like this. Like this right here is just equally as valid as the way that I set it up over there. You want to produce concrete, and then this wants to hold sulfur, and you want to produce road stops. So now we have like a production chain of things that we want. We've got, things are flowing into here, then they flow into here, then they flow into here. And it doesn't have to be like I've produced here in a straight line. I just like the straight lines because it just looks a little bit more organized. It lets me visually keep things a little bit more straight in my head. We could actually probably do with a second thing in here using mechanical parts. So what the hell? Let's just do another assembly plant making trucks. Why not? Why not? But yeah, this is if you want higher throughput, you can do this kind of a design. So I've got plenty of extractors. I'm probably going to need a second production line of roads. Let's get that handled. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we'll do depot. The first depot will be sulfur. Then we will put the factory here. The factory will produce concrete, and the 2 assembly plants will produce roads. Now you can middle click a building to copy it. I kind of tend to click through and do things. It would be kind of fun if things were a little bit smart. Like if I place a depot next to a building that's producing something and that building only has one production output, it would be nice if the depots were a little bit smarter and actually like acquired. I was like, oh, there's only one type of resource in range. I'm automatically going to come down as like an iron mine, right? If you place it next to five iron extractors, maybe that would make a bit more sense. I understand why it doesn't make sense later on in the game when you get higher tech stuff where like these like little depot pads have like 2 range. So they don't just service the first ring, they actually service the second ring as well. Both in terms of extractors, but also resource consumers. So, right, we've got plenty of roads being produced, which means we can now start to think about what the hell are these supply centers and how do we use them? Well, if we come over here to New Ahmedabad, I don't know how to say that. I'm just going to call it New is a population 3 city that requires some resources. So if I put a supply center, I think, does it have to be adjacent? I don't actually know. Yeah, no, it does have to be adjacent to one of the city tiles. So I'll put a supply center here. And if you look over here, this is where the sulfur is. So we can supply this city with concrete, and this city needs concrete essentially to expand. So how do we supply concrete over long distances? Well, that's how we're going to make use of the truck stop, this thing right here. This is going to accept concrete, and then that concrete is going to get transported here. But before we can even set this up, we're going to have to actually produce concrete to be sent to the city. So I'm going to try to set up a configuration here that extracts almost all of the resources in this location, just because it'll be more fun for me that way. Let's do a bunch of sulfur miners like so. Okay, perfect. We've got all of these sulfur things being extracted. They're going to fill up these pads. Then I need them all to be hit by factories. These factories will produce concrete. Boom, boom, boom. Why didn't the little thingy update? Regardless, right? It's working. So now we're producing concrete in all of these. And now we need all of these to have depots. Then these depots will hold the concrete like so. And we could kind of centralize all these into a single road stop, but what I'm going to do instead is have 3 different road stops, but just have a single road feeding this, just so this has like a very, very regular supply. This is like kind of advanced and not necessary at all, but it is how I like to do things. So we want the road to go there, and then we want the road to go there, and we want the road to go there, and then we want these 3 roads to kind of merge together, ideally in a way where they don't interfere with each other. So like at a central hubby kind of point like that. Yeah. Now we select this truck road stop and we set its destination to one of these locations, and I wanted to transport concrete in between these 2 locations. Now there's a single truck on this route and it can transport 4 concrete per year, but I needed to transport more, so I'm going to add a second truck, which is why we were producing trucks earlier. And then I'm going to set up the other destination lines for these other concretes as well. So we'll do this. I want you to transport concrete, and I want you to have 2 trucks on you. And then I want this guy to transport concrete as well. And I want you to have 2 trucks. So now we've got a maximum throughput of about, between each of these, they could do about 7 per year each, which is a pretty damn good number. So that should more or less cover it. I'm going to add a 3rd truck to each one so that we can hit pretty good throughput here and keep the processing going. And so now these trucks, they're picking up the cute little package of concrete and they're driving it all the way over to this depot. This drone swings out, grabs it. By the way, if you have too many trucks feeding a single depot, the drone won't be able to keep up and extract everything. So your drones can get quite busy. There is actually like a literal limit to how quickly this drone can pick up and drop off resources. The drone will then put the resources into the supply depot, and the city will get its demanded concrete. So that's quite good. Now that new Ahmedabad or whatever, new A has a population of 3, but every time this little demand bar fills up, the city will grow slightly. And I'm gonna do this for New Los Angeles as well, just for fun. Just because I happen to know that there's no reason not to build up every city. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we'll put down a little depot. This depot will be making sulfur. The factory will be making concrete. The concrete will be stored in a depot, and then that will have a truck stop, and then I want these 2 truck stops to be connected together. I want this truck stop to send concrete to this truck stop. I want this depot to accept concrete, and then this supply center will accept that concrete and grow the city. And then I would like at least 10-ish to be transported per year, so I'll put 4 trucks on it, make sure that this is able to store concrete, and we shall keep that busy. So now, New Los Angeles, New LA, will slowly get built up. Now there is another city that we need to build up, which is New Paris, all the way over here. So let's kind of do the same thing. While we're waiting, we may as well build up these cities while we wait. And man, I don't know what it is, but there's just something so crunchy and satisfying about this gameplay loop, about placing down little pieces of infrastructure and watching them expand and build cities. And the city actually quite literally physically expands. I'll go show you that in a moment here. When I get a second. Oh, that's not how we want to do things. We want to do a factory that processes. Oh, I misclicked on my recording software. I want to build concrete, and then that concrete needs to go into a depot. That is there. The sulfur depot needs to be activated, and then this truck stop will go between these 2 locations like so. And then I want my trucks to go between here and here, carrying concrete. You need to accept concrete, and probably you want about 10 for these other cities. I'm going to do about 10, but for New Ahmedabad, I want it to be fully supplied, because it is going to start to demand more and more concrete. But if we look at this, look, the city is now population 6. They've built another little thing, and I actually do have the right to demolish these. I won't demolish them because it will slow down the rate of the city's growth. But you can see here, my mission is to reach a population 10 in my biggest city. We're now at Ahmedabad is growing, right? It's got that. It hit that milestone, and now that it's hit that milestone, the people living here, they need more. They need more new resources, and this is the fundamental gameplay loop in Plan B Terraform, or whatever it's called, is feeding cities, building up new industries, all that sort of stuff. So we've just unlocked alumina bars, carbon ore, O2, the atmospheric extractor, and the landmark tower. I suppose the very first thing we'll get is the landmark tower, because it's very simple, it's very straightforward and very easy. I'll just place down like boom, 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 a bunch of these extractors. Let's get ourselves a little factory, and then the assembly plant. I'll put a depot in between them. The depot in between should have concrete. This should have sulfur. And then you need to be producing the landmark tower. So what the landmark tower is, it's like a utility building that allows you to basically put, like, I could be like, this is, Greg's iron mine, or this is the Spar concrete deposit. You could do all these kind of like cute little things. But all my cities are growing, which I'm very happy about, except for New Paris. Perhaps I'll add an extra truck to this destination, and maybe we'll be able to hit that. Concrete is being stored here. Am I messing up? No. It is. It's just taking time. Okay. Yeah, but now New A needs concrete. Or sorry, not concrete. It needs oxygen. So in order to grow this city, we need to get it oxygen. How do we produce oxygen? Well, oxygen is produced in the atmospheric extractor that pulls carbon dioxide into it and produces O2 and carbon. So we're going to need to combine mechanical parts and aluminum bars. So we can see here, we have aluminum over here. This is aluminum ore. So let's go ahead and get an extractor going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extractors, and then we'll place a little depot. How fast do aluminum bars get produced? That's a great question. So we can produce 2 aluminium ore is turned into 1 aluminium bar. This can produce 30 per year. Each of these extractors can produce 15. So we should get a good amount. I'm actually not going to try to balance the production limits. I'm just going to try and get them to where they need to go. So I'm going to put down a little truck stop here. And I'm going to produce iron over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, let me go ahead and combine. Let me do the thing that I did earlier, where you combine two production chains into a single production line. So let's do 2 factories producing steel bars. Perfect. I want this to store iron, and I'll middle click to copy that over. And then I want this to store steel bars. And then I want this factory to produce mechanical parts. And then I want, just for the sake of having a little bit of fun, because it is fun to me, you are going to produce mechanical parts. This is getting fed by, you know, a pair of things here. These mechanical parts are going to get fed into another assembly plant. This assembly plant will produce the atmospheric extractor. I'm going to put a depot on this side to accept the aluminium bars, and we will put a truck stop here. And now we can connect these 2 production lines like so between them. And your job will be to transport. Oh, sorry, actually, that's not where the truck stop should go, because that's where the depot should go. The depot should go here, and this depot should hold aluminium bars, and then you should send them there. So I want to send from here to here aluminium bars, and I probably want to send, like, I don't know, I'll just send like 12 per year, right? That should be more than enough. That should be in more than enough trucks. These guys will make their way over. And now I'm combining resources from multiple different things, right? So this is the game. The construction chains are going to get more complicated. They're going to get more fiddly, more finicky. Oh, let me make sure. Yeah, you are storing aluminium bars. And now we're slowly getting to work on the atmospheric extractor, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And now the atmospheric extractor is an interesting building. Let's go ahead and build a new supply center off of this city. I'd say, let's see, to the north. Here looks fine. And we're going to go ahead and put a supply depot with 3 little roads coming off it. And then there's going to be a single tile. You'll understand why I'm doing this. In fact, I'm going to build the small scale version first so that you can understand what I'm doing here. But basically, we would like to use roads to expand the amount of space that my city can occupy. So we'll do this, and we'll build a atmospheric extractor like this in this configuration. That's because this building actually has 2 outputs. One is the oxygen that we care very deeply about, and we want that oxygen to get transported over towards the city so the city can actually produce it. So by using a single truck on a single line here, we can kind of space out our production away from the edge of the city and not get in the way of the city's expansion. I don't. This just makes sense to me mentally, and then we can also save the carbon for later. And the plan that I was doing is a configuration of this where you do 3 parallel lines of truck stops. It should look like this. I think this is the configuration. And then we have 2 more here. This will be oxygen. This over here will be carbon. This one is carbon. And then this one here is oxygen. We want to make sure that oxygen is getting transported back and forth. And by having multiple trucks kind of like all working together, it means we have like really good throughput. At any one time, there should be a truck here that this guy can pull an oxygen off. Yeah, another atmospheric extractor here will do the job. Each of these will produce 12 oxygen per year. So you probably don't need like this level of production, to be honest with you, because you more than supplied the city. But now that the city has both of its needs in concrete and O2 met, it will grow. Now I wonder, does it grow at its own pace, or does having multiple thingies make it grow faster? But yeah, essentially this city will now, if I speed up time, it should grow to 100 population. Because we're feeding it with oxygen, we've got tons of carbon spare, and that carbon will be used in later future processes. I don't know, there's just something satisfying about having full depots. Like we have supplied the city with everything that it needs, and as we kind of zoom out here and we'll watch it slowly build new buildings and expand and reach new population milestones. We're up to 40 population here. Like, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't there something satisfying about this? We've been here 10 years. We haven't really affected like the atmosphere data or anything like that, but we're only getting, this is like the early game. We haven't even begun to terraform this planet. We're like getting the first colonies up, you know what I mean? And look, we're up to 70 population. We've almost hit our goal. And what I really like about this is as the cities expand, you can kind of like attach new like supply depots to them and stuff like that. Oh, there we go. The city upgraded and the demo is complete. Now, we could continue to play and get to a population of 300, but I think that would be completely unnecessary. But the next thing is to get polymer bars and to get reinforced concrete, which requires concrete and steel. And then we can make high-tech parts and we can make depots, tier 2 depots, which require aluminum bars and polymer bars. Polymer bars are made from plastic waste, which is extracted from cities because the city, of course, naturally produces things. Plan B Terraform. February 15th. Add it to your wish list. Get ready. I'm going to be playing this game. This game is awesome. I love it. I'm super excited. I haven't seen a game take me by this level of surprise. I'm genuinely shocked at how brilliant this game is. I was not ready for this game to be this fun, this early, and just to look this, no game, like it just looks so good at every zoom level. It's just, I mean, look, there's a little bit of a wibble when you zoom in, right? Sure, fine, but I don't know how they did it. They made a really cool game. And like, even look at the little mini map up here. Dude, look at this. I cannot believe that this game exists. I'm in awe of it. It's so nice. This is gonna be a hit game on YouTube. 100% guarantee. This is gonna be one of the hit games of 2023. It's gotta be. Like, just look at it. It does everything right in this genre. It has an extremely satisfying central gameplay loop. It has, you know, logistics and transport and upgrading and progression and new needs, and it has terraforming. This is the kind of game that I love. I love games about taking a place, a barren world, and expanding it. I remember one of my favorite games was like, I think it was UFO Aftermath or something like that, and it was basically like an XCOM game, but it was about terraforming Mars because Earth had fallen, and we were basically trying to like, Earth had fallen to the aliens, and we were trying to prepare Mars as a place to live, but then we discover like ancient alien ruins on Mars, and we have to, you know, something about this idea, the idea of taking a place that is inhospitable, unusable, unlivable, and making it somewhere that you can live. It's such a satisfying idea to me. Anyway, I'm glad I got to show off the game. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.